Hello, thanks everyone for joining us. I'm David Thomas and this is Lisa Forbes, and we run Professors at Play, and we are absolutely delighted today to be here with Dr. Stuart Brown. Really, I would say a personal hero to us and probably to you too. And Stuart is going to speak today at the tomorrow at the Playposium. And this evening he agreed to just answer some questions that Lisa and I had. And in some sense, we're just going to be fanboy and fangirl and just ask the questions we want to ask. But really, we're interested in your point of view about the world of play, especially vis-a-vis higher education. So Lisa, I don't know if you want to kick it off. We've got a bunch of questions to ask.
Are you ready?
I don't know. We'll
Hey,
see.
there might be some curveballs in here. Just kidding. So first, do you think the world is growing more or less playful?
I think it depends on where you focus. I think if you were to look at the United States and the demography of, let's say, youth and adolescents, I think the free play in those eras of existence is less. Mm-hmm. And I think that also extends to Europe. I don't know about Asia and Russia. I've not studied that at all. But if you go to Africa and see some tribal areas, the freedom of kids there to play appears to be unimpaired.
What about in terms of age demographics? Do you think are adults more playful these days than they were, or less? Or
if you go to Silicon Valley, David,
yeah.
I think you can find at Google and Meta and the investment bankers, I think they have a gradually increasing awareness of the necessity for them in their worlds, if they're going to be innovative and not burn out, to play more. But I don't know if you go to a industrial assembly line situation where output is honored, or if you go to a upper class high school where kids are trying to get into Ivy Leagues, I think the freedom to play in settings of those descriptions is less.
This is a topic that Lisa and I talk a lot about, and I'd be curious, is play becoming a privilege of certain groups of people that have the affluence or the ability to play?
I think, again, that depends on the subculture that in which they exist. Brian Sutton Smith, who was a real pioneer in play research, felt that, at least in the United States, that free play and open play was the domain of the privileged. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that if you had a working mother and an absent father and tremendous privation economically, the opportunities to play was less. But I made a film for PBS quite a while ago, and we found some mothers who were in those circumstances who nonetheless found time, energy, and enjoyed real free play with their kids. So it can be done. Mm-hmm. I think it's less common.
Yeah.
What direction do you think the field of play should travel next?
Well, since I have a background as a physician and I've been interested in the neuroscience that's behind play, I think as the science of play becomes more and more an awareness of that science gets into policy, I think that's going to, like smoking and cancer, going to change the sense of play itself and how important it is as a public health necessity, which I think it is.
Policy is always a really tricky thing to get into. So what do you think would be the most effective ways to do that, and in what realm?
Well, I'm thinking for some reason, my mind goes to Mandela. who had himself a very difficult life, but he embraced sporting and sports fun as something that was part of a national ethic. And I think it had some effect on the reconciliation that occurred in the post-apartheid South Africa. So I think there are policy processes that require leadership, but I think to me, the really solid science that comes from animal play studies and from play scholars is going to get through to us as human beings. And we all need to play, and we all feel better when we play, and we function better when we play, and we're healthier when we play. Well, that ought to become policy.
So to follow up on that, Lisa and I work largely within the frame of higher education. What are your thoughts on how can higher ed help with that kind of urging toward policy?
Please come to my talk tomorrow.
It's a deal. I'll be there. Yeah.
But I think part of the answer, David, is that if you find something that engages you and you're a student, and it stems from your own intrinsic inner motivation, and you're curious, that you will find within higher education a sense of joy and discovery, which is part of play.
Yeah.
And play and learning really go together, so that when they are united, the outcome is better, even though the preoccupation is not with outcome.
Yeah.
The preoccupation is enjoying the engagement that you have from your own play nature.
Yeah, I love that.
I've been curious. You're obviously a leading expert in the field of play and one of my heroes. But has there been any other play person that has had a significant impact on you?
Oh, gosh, yes. I mentioned Brian Sutton Smith. When I found he was giving a talk at Aspen Ideas, maybe almost 30 years ago now, I went to Aspen and talked him into walking from the top of Aspen Mountain down to the bottom of Aspen Mountain. And by the time I got to the bottom of Aspen Mountain, I understood a lot more about play and him than I had before. So he's one of my heroes. But probably the biggest and most fundamental influence is a neuroscientist, psychologist, Jacques Panksepp. Jacques Panksepp, I thought before meeting him, convinced me that play itself is not a learned process with the high cerebral cortex and memory learning as the major source of it. It is intrinsically wired in our subcortex, and it's triggered by a variety of circumstances, and he demonstrated that beautifully, and I'm going to talk a little about that tomorrow. He demonstrated that beautifully with tickling rats and their vocalizations, but he generalized it to humans. And I think his work, unfortunately, passed away a few years ago. I think had he gotten a Nobel Prize, which he deserved, play might be a little more prominent in its policy making than it is now. So he's one of my heroes, and there are others. I could, there Mark Beckhoff in your area of Colorado, and Gordon Burkhart, or there are Peter Gray, who was a pioneer in many ways. There are some wonderful play experts upon whose shoulders I rest.
I love that.
Yeah, that's great. So the world continues to be a tumultuous place, cultural, social upheaval. Do you have any thoughts on some particular area where maybe play could have a big positive impact in a global sense?
Well, let's take a look at somebody like Putin.
Yeah.
From what I understand, I've never examined him and don't want to, but he was bullied, he was small, he lived in privation, he didn't play, he didn't develop empathy for his fellow human beings. If I were to follow some people that I admire greatly who are both innovative and players, some Nobel laureates I've interviewed and others, they had a sense of joy and empathy combined. And they were trusting of their parents and of other people. So trust and empathy and really innovativeness and curiosity, these are byproducts that require play. Mm-hmm. We don't develop play capabilities well if we don't play.
Yeah.
And that goes for our lifetime. I'm kind of enjoying this. This is old man play for me.
Oh, it's definitely play for us. Yeah. We're balling back and forth here.
And I hope I'm holding the microphone close by.
You're doing a great job. So, we've met your daughter and your granddaughter now, and they talk about your legacy of play within your family and how they're doing certain things to carry on your legacy and elevate your knowledge. What do you hope your legacy becomes in this world?
Well, I think, both of you are doing what my sense of and understand the importance and the power of play. You're doing it within your professional expertise. That's beyond my legacy. That's beyond that. But I think the ability of preschool kids to engage in rough and tumble play and to have a sense of trust of others if they're in a toxic, dysfunctional family unit, and somehow recognizing that and preventing the solidification of bullying and non-empathic companionship with others is fundamental to ultimately the Putins of the world not starting wars. I mean, that goes beyond our discussion, but it is a way of thinking. I think within us human beings, our hunter-gatherer heritage, our primate heritage, our animal heritage, our subcortical heritage provides us through play to gain a sense of trust and empathy where you don't want to kill your brother or participate in things that are cruel and evil to the same degree you would if you had not played.
Mm-hmm. So I'm hearing like systems, policy to impact systems, but also family systems.
Oh, sure.
So I've always thought that we should have mandatory high school classes on certain things, and I wonder if one of them would be like parenting through play, child development through play for like a parent perspective.
Well, I talk a lot about how I got started in being interested professionally in play, and it was through seeing the absence of play in the lives of murderers, first of Charles Whitman, the Texas Tower murder, and then a series of murderers that I've examined in the Texas prison system, and contrast them with those whose lives are fulfilled and empathic who played. And I think that ethic process hasn't become a part of our national consciousness. And it could be. And I think you two are doing your part. Look at the legacy you'll have with your students. They will understand that learning, and they're better through play and in their own academic and personal lives. And you can model that for them. That's tremendously important.
So I'm curious, you talk a bit about the science of the benefits of play. I think that people that are advocates for play see it, and just in their daily practice. Why is this positive social benefit such a hill to climb? Why aren't people clamoring for more play? What happened that got pushed into the margins?
That's a difficult question. I'm not a sociologist or what I would say is a social psychologist. And I don't have a simple answer. I think the Industrial Revolution, agriculture, and its essence, which is long grinding hours of work with the surplus occurring after that, have a lot to do with it. I think there are cultural and religious issues that you're utterly depraved as a human being without God, so on. I think there are things like that that miss the essential human nature of play itself, which is embedded in all of us. All you have to do is see a mother and infant together with the smiling infant and the joyful mother looking at her to see that this is built into all of us, and then that it then exists for a lifetime. Why that hasn't penetrated, there's privation, there's starvation, there are many difficult things, and Harari, the author, has written a book called *Sapiens*, where he talks about the warlike nature of human beings. So I don't have a simple answer. I just know that play works as a means of provoking cooperation and empathy and community support, where competition is modified in the good of the whole. So play has huge benefits, and I hope we're all doing our part.
Well, let me ask you then, in your experience, what's worked for you to convince people? Is it just the hard science? Is there something else? Your winning smile? What do you do?
I think I did spend a lot of time with the National Geographic studying animal play, in part because Jane Goodall said, "Stuart, you'll never understand play if you don't see it in the wild in animals." So in studying the animal play, you begin to sense that this is a really important part of who we are as primate humans. And getting that across often requires showing, which I will do tomorrow, showing, for example, a wild polar bear approaching a tethered sled dog, looking like its carnivorous nature is going to be fulfilled by eating the sled dog. The sled dog goes down into a play bow, wags their tail. The bear stands up, gives up his fangs, his hair goes flat, they start a dance. That's something that's intrinsically built into mammalian nature. And our nature, well, it's got to be triggered. And the dog in that circumstance have triggered it. So that's part of how I try and get it across to people. And, I hope it has some effect. And I'm certainly grateful to the Geographic and Jane for turning me loose into seeing animal play and human play as having a parallelism. There's one other thing I think that occasionally reaches people, and that is to compare play and sleep. We all sleep and dream at night. So do birds, so do polar bears, so do giraffes, so do dolphins. There's a commonality of both play and sleep. Sleep deprivation is not good for you. Neither is play deprivation. And there is a parallelism. They're not identical. But getting that, something as basic as that, everybody sleeps, not everybody plays.
Yeah.
I love that.
It does, yeah. And it's funny to me, though. We think about the irony of how play is so fragile, that there's this paradox of play, that it goes away when, other deprivations come. It probably goes away at the time you need it the most sometimes.
I think that's valid. And I think we don't recognize the effects of chronic play deprivation. And the many play reviews I've done as a clinician reveal that when you don't play, your life gets more rigid, you get an ideologic sense of fixity often, which is not open to ambiguity, and paradox, which is part of life for all of us. And I think the identification and quantification of play deprivation, a wonderful animal play researcher has done this in Lethbridge University in Alberta, Sergio Pellis. So if any of your audiences want to read some beautiful work, quantitative work about play itself in mammalian players, such as rats and ferrets and hamsters, Sergio has done a beautiful, beautiful job in that.
Nice.
Another one of my heroes.
Awesome.
So David didn't want me to ask this question, but a part of play is breaking rules, so I'm going to ask it anyway. And you've been talking a lot about animals today, so I think it fits. So metaphorically speaking, if play were an animal, what animal would it be and why?
Oh gosh, I have to say that Cookie, my adoptive dog, is just an incredible player.
Yeah.
And I can look at Cookie in the morning and get eye contact, and I get an oxytocin burst from Cookie. So dogs do it for me, but some people like fish.
Yeah.
I just say thanks for saying dogs, because she's cats, I'm dogs. She's got to be dogs. So
I like cats and octopi. Octopuses, whatever.
Well, my daughter's kind of a close onlooker for what this interview. She's a cat person.
Yes, cats
oh, man,
all the way.
Is she ever? She is nuts about this cat,
Yeah.
And maybe David and I wouldn't be, but
cats are sweet, but dogs, that's where
they're playful in their own way.
Yeah. Anyhow. That question, did I answer it all? Even
however
though you're not a dog
it,
person?
Yeah, however you answer it is the right answer.
She'll forgive you, is what she's saying.
Okay.
So we want to ask you this on a personal note. You have been this esteemed scholar of play, and so has it been something that you feel like has brought you to this point in your life? I mean, you seem so alive and vivacious, and we all want to believe it's because of play, or maybe you just got good genes.
Well, I'm not the one to ask that question. Yeah. I feel very blessed, and I feel very purposeful that I've been put in a situation, particularly that Texas Tower situation, to see in depth the consequences in a life with no play.
Yeah.
And we studied 35,000 brain sections of that individual, as well as a three generational review. John Connolly, the then governor of Texas, funded our research, and that is what opened my eyes about play deprivation. And then it was find out about play. So that it serves me as as a 91-year-old guy. So
maybe I should ask it this way.
I think I'm fortunate, and could have been cancer 10 years ago. You never know.
Well, do you think your study of play made you a more playful person through your life?
Yes and no. I think the early part of medicine was that to grind it out, tired doctor is the best doctor. Mm-hmm. And I certainly lived that. I took 2 residencies, and they were not all play.
Yeah.
But I had a grounding with my father and mother in a very, very solid play ethic, so that it comes natural to me. And I would certainly, as a medical student, would still go out at night and run and sing and that sort of thing while I ran, so that I played more than I think the average human being, and that was family.
Yeah.
That was learned in family. As to genes, I'm just lucky.
Yeah.
We've talked to you about our Professors at Play community.
Right.
And it's 800 some people across the globe, mainly faculty working in higher education, using play and learning with adults. what message would you like to give to our professors at Play community about play and teaching?
First of all, I want to commend both of you for organizing it and getting it going. It's one of those organizations that, to me, has the capability of play becoming the movement we just have basically said should happen. And you're doing your part. So 800 professors is a blinking force of nature. If they're all convinced about the essences of play. And this is where the Sergio Pellis, the Jack Pranksepp, the Sutton Smith, and the others can ground these professors and improve whatever curriculum. Even I don't care if they're a professor of engineering or art. Play will increase the efficacy for their students of how their students perform and enjoy life. What a legacy you two are getting going. I mean, it's incredible. So that's partly why I'm here, is that I'm very impressed with what you're doing, and I think the play wave has yet to happen.
Well, we're inspired by you, so you're our leader.
No, I'm just fortunate to be who I am, where I am. Thank you for this opportunity. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks to you. We're inspired by the work that you've done, and it emboldens us to go out in front of faculty who aren't the easiest people in the world sometimes. They're very smart people. They're set in their ways, but we continue to discover more and more allies in higher ed, and
good for you.
And and the fact that we have your kind words, it just it reaffirms that higher ed has a place in this, and we're excited to do what we can to share the word and I guess generate some of that kinetic energy for that wave.
Well, I think think about other very small organizations that had a purpose, and some of what they've accomplished. Clean water in Great Britain with the cholera epidemic, things of that sort, which made huge differences. Fleming with penicillin and how that spread. There are things that are very much close to me because I'm a doctor, but the essence of play is so vividly present historically in our ancestors, the hunter-gatherers, and why isn't it there? It's still there in our biology. Why isn't it there in our lives? Well, you're doing it. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Well, thanks. We'll look forward to your talk tomorrow.
And I just made it.
Yeah, we're done. That's it. Well, yeah, we appreciate you being here. You're a very hard man to track down. We've been trying to get a hold of you for years. No social media, can't find your email. So we finally got it, and we're just so
I'm sorry to be elusive, but
smart.
It was worth it. It was worth
Thank
it.
you for this opportunity.
Yeah.